But there have been some iconic unmaskings in WWE history. Every fan remembers Kane's initial unmasking in 2003 and the storyline that followed, but oftentimes in WWE, a wrestler can be unmasked accidentally. This can occur due to the nature of a wrestling match, so attire malfunctions are gonna happen, and this sadly extends to a wrestler's mask. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 9 WWE wrestlers who were accidentally unmasked. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, Wrestlelamia Shorts. Number 9. Kalisto. A former WWE champion, Alberto Del Rio had a reputation for being rather snug in the ring. This was seen in 2015 when Del Rio was heavy-handed with Kalisto in a match on Raw and accidentally pulled Kalisto's mask completely off. Del Rio and Kalisto then had to work together to safely fix Kalisto's mask and try to cover up his face from the audience. Mistakes of this kind can happen at any time in a WWE match, but fans were critical with how rough Del Rio was being with Kalisto, as it was almost as if Del Rio was deliberately trying to mess with him by trying to remove his trademark mask. Speaking of Kalisto's trademark mask, he had a decent run in WWE and even won the US title on 2 separate occasions. Kalisto had high hopes for his run in WWE and was heavily pushed for a mask versus mask match with legendary Rey Mysterio, but unfortunately this never transpired. Number 8. Grand Metalik. WWE's production team is often praised for being able to shoot around botches and attire blunders. This was the case in 2017 when Neville was wrestling Grand Metalik on Raw. In a planned spot, Neville began to pull at Metalik's mask, but what wasn't planned was Metalik's mask ripping, exposing his face in the process. WWE smartly referenced how important a wrestler's mask is on commentary during a match, and how Neville had done one of the most disrespectful things possible. It was a simple error on the part of Neville, and it's likely that he didn't realize his own strength when pulling at the mask, but nevertheless it made for an interesting and compelling babyface versus heel narrative for the match itself. Number 7. Lince Dorado. Unmaskings can unfortunately happen at any time during a WWE match, and this is exactly what happened during an episode of 205 Live back in 2018. Lince Dorado was wrestling in a 6-man tag match which featured him teaming with other members of the Lucha House Party against Drew Gulak, the Brian Kendrick, and Jack Gallagher. During the course of the action, Drew Gulak would throw Dorado into the ground, but in the process, Dorado's mask came completely off. There was an audible noise from the crowd when this occurred, and the fans knew that this wasn't supposed to happen. Dorado then proceeded to smartly roll out of the ring, which gave him the appropriate time to fix his mask and regain his composure. Major credit was offered towards WWE for keeping the camera off Dorado, but also to Gulak, who worked the crowd and managed to keep the focus firmly off Dorado. Number 6. Kane in 2018. The main event of Crown Jewel 2018 featured the in-ring return of Shawn Michaels. HBK had previously retired in 2010, and fans were critical of HBK's decision to come out of retirement and wrestle in Saudi Arabia. HBK would team with Triple H to take on The Undertaker and Kane, and the match was so bad that HBK has gone on record to say that he regrets coming out of retirement for this match. Fans resented the match so much that they've even decided to erase it from their memories and still class HBK's match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26 as his final match ever. The match itself featured a ton of botches, but perhaps the worst of them all was when Kane's mask accidentally fell off. When HBK threw a punch at Kane, he accidentally hit Kane's mask, leading it to falling off. Kane then had to awkwardly complete a number of spots in the match with the mask off, which made for a bizarre viewing. Kane would even attempt to cover up his face, which was unusual because Kane had been unmasked for a strong portion of his career in WWE, meaning that 99% of the audience were fully aware of what he looked like. Kane eventually managed to secure his mask back, and the 4 legendary talents were finally able to finish the match. Number 5. Sin Cara. It's no secret that Alberto Del Rio and Sin Cara had personal issues during their time in WWE. These issues escalated in 2012 when Del Rio accidentally unmasked Sin Cara in a match on Raw. This occurred when Del Rio pulled up Sin Cara's mask, subsequently exposing his face to the entire world. Del Rio in usual fashion did this right in front of the hard camera, which led to some fans and in all likelihood Sin Cara believing that Del Rio did this deliberately. Number 4. Reckoning. Upon WWE calling up NXT star Mia Yim to the main roster, she would be repackaged in a big way. Mia Yim would become Reckoning and would be a part of the Retribution stable. She would wear a mask that was similar to other members of the infamous stable, and it was ordered by Vince McMahon that nobody on commentary should mention that it was obvious that Reckoning was in fact Mia Yim. When Reckoning wrestled Dana Brooke on Raw in 2020, she was unmasked just a few short seconds into the match, forcing her to wrestle the rest of the match unmasked. As per McMahon's orders, the WWE commentary team weren't permitted to mention the fact that Reckoning was Mia Yim, even though her face could be seen. The character was eventually dropped, which was an utter waste of a talented star. According to Mia Yim, the mask itself was actually rather dangerous to wear and she found it extremely hard to breathe in. She would discuss this during a virtual signing with High Spots Wrestling Network, saying, "You know what? I know my role, and if that's what WWE wanted me to do, I was gonna do it. I got a lot to say about my time in WWE, but I'm gonna say it on YouTube when I'm ready. But this Reckoning mask was not really, it was very difficult to breathe, and the biggest concern was like, not that I didn't like it, but if I got kicked in the face and the ends poked out from the back, I could have got stabbed in the face. But you know, they didn't care about that, so." Number 3, Rey Mysterio in 2018. It could be argued that Rey Mysterio is the most famous masked wrestler in pro wrestling history. Mysterio is a certified icon of wrestling and has won a number of world titles. His mask has been incorporated into a number of storylines throughout his career, and in 2018, Mysterio would have an entire storyline with Randy Orton which would revolve around his trademark mask. In a match on SmackDown, Orton would rip Mysterio's mask, but then during a spot where Orton assaulted Mysterio with a chair, the mask came completely off. It was never confirmed if this was a scripted spot, but fans assumed based on the camera angles that it was completely unplanned. Orton then proceeded to gloat with the mask, whilst the WWE production team did everything in their power to stop fans at home seeing Mysterio's face. This storyline is vastly underrated and manages to highlight why both Mysterio and Orton are two of the greatest wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. Number 2, Kane in 2001. Between 1999 to 2016, WWE would tape SmackDown, which ultimately allowed them to edit out any botches. This was needed in 2001 when Kane was wrestling Edge on the show and Kane's mask accidentally went halfway up his face. The incident occurred as Edge had Kane in a front face lock and Edge applied too much pressure, and this would lead to Kane's mask coming loose and almost completely coming off. If fans pause at the specific moment, it's easy to see half of Kane's face, and it's a huge surprise that this image wasn't heavily circulated back in 2001. The match then came to a dramatic end as Edge quickly delivered a spear to end the match, and this would mark one of Edge and Kane's early 1v1 matches, and interestingly, almost a decade later, the two would go on to be feuding over the WWE's top prize. And number 1, Rey Mysterio in 2009. One of the standout rivalries of 2009 was between Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho. The two legends would feud over the Intercontinental title, and the matches between the two were pay-per-view main event caliber. WWE would perform several spots during this rivalry which involved Mysterio unmasking in some capacity, but one took place at a WWE live event which was completely unplanned. Mysterio's mask just casually slipped off during the action, but Jericho was able to cover for Mysterio and he would reportedly go under the ring to fix his iconic mask. The unmasking went in their favour as fans firmly believe it was part of the match, as their storyline was firmly based on Jericho's desire to unmask Mysterio. Now, footage of this unmasking is hard to come across, but photos do exist thanks to those fans in attendance who managed to see the two former WWE champions collide. Well, there you have it folks, 9 accidental unmaskings in WWE. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.